I can't remember the last time I made a video, but I feel like it's been a really long time. And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to talk about. So I thought that I'd do a very brief PhD program review, more or less. It's like a year in review, except I'm looking at the whole program. The semester has ended officially. I think it ended on Monday or Sunday or whatever it is. But last week was finals week. I gave my students their final and I graded them and submitted them, those scores last week. As far as my finals go, one class ended pretty early because he didn't, give me a final exam. That's the Fourier analysis class. And the other one was the convex geometry course. And I finished that, I believe Sunday night. I submitted my final via email. I did not get a response from him, so I don't know if he actually got it, but hopefully he did. And that was pretty much it. I've been prepping my apartment because I want to depart and go visit some family members. It's been a while since I've seen them. I cleaned up my table, so I now have 2 stacks of books. This stack will stay here, and that stack I plan on bringing with me. I'm not going to read every single book, but I just want to have the book just in case I want to, look up something. Really, I just want to read this complex analysis book. I don't want to take notes over it or anything. And if I want to look stuff up, I have this book. I want to read this book, not take notes. But I want to take notes over these 2 and then have these 2 just so that I can look some stuff up pretty easily. Okay, so PhD program review. What do we want to talk about? Well, from fall, how well is this pen showing up? It's a pink pen. A student gave me this. I have no idea if that student is watching this YouTube video that gave me this pink pen, but if you are watching this, hello. Some of my students know about my channel. They know that I am YouTube famous, except not really. I don't really consider 36,000 subs considered famous, but I mean, it's not small, but it's not like, 200,000 or whatever. It's not number file huge. I'm not even close. So fall 21 to spring 22, that was my first year. And in that year, I took, we'll call it measure theory because that's really all we ever talked about was measure theory. We took 1 and 2, I forgot all my English. We took abstract algebra. These are the core requirements for pure math people. And then I also took complex analysis 1. They only make you take 1, they don't make you take 2. You can take 2 if you want, but it's not required. And I also remember taking a GTA teacher's course, which I don't really talk about that much. And that's because all it is they bring in the GTAs and they give them like some sort of training of how to teach a variety of courses, whatever course they want you to teach. I ended up teaching pre-calculus that semester and the semester after that. In fact, the next year, I ended up teaching a different version of that pre-calc class, and I also taught intuitive calculus. But now I'm teaching, next semester, I'm teaching trigonometry. I've never taught trigonometry before, but everyone that teaches it says they like doing it, so I'm looking forward to it. But this was my first year. This year is not recorded on my YouTube channel. I did not do any recording. I didn't even think to do a YouTube channel at the time. I think the channel actually existed, but I didn't upload anything. I just knew that I wanted a math channel, but I had no idea what I wanted to post. But anyway, so we took all these classes, and then that summer 22, which I guess I can put here, summer, why did I put 2 R's? because I think of the double 2 at the end, I guess. I bet to those people out there watching this video that don't know who I am must think I'm really stupid. Maybe it's just because I haven't spoken in front of this camera in so long that I'm getting nervous. What did I even take that semester? I took like Lie algebras and some sort of partial differential equations type course. And then, of course, we took quals at the end of it. Scary face. Because that was the first time I took quals. I took the algebra. I was studying for algebra qual. I was studying for analysis qual. And I remember being kind of depressed. I don't like using the word depressed because I think people misuse the word a lot. But I do remember having a lot of self-reflection. Like, I'd be studying and I'd be thinking, like, what am I doing with my life? Almost. And then I was also contemplating death, like how close I was getting. You know, I'm a young guy. When you get into like your late 20s, early 30s, you kind of got a feeling of like how fast time goes that you don't really have when you're like a teenager or something. So I just remember when I was studying for these qualifying exams, I'd be studying, and then those thoughts would be interrupted with some pretty scary thoughts. But anyway, I took the qualifiers. I passed algebra. We took it pretty early. I remember everyone wanted to take algebra early, and they do let us like ask. They do ask us like, when do you want to take it? And we said we would like to take it at the beginning of August, if that's okay. And they're like, sure. So we all took it, and we all passed it. And then for like the next 2 weeks, we studied for the analysis qualifier. And then instead of everyone passing, everyone failed because of how tough it is. And we got our results pretty much on day 1 of the next year. So this was first year. This is not documented on the channel. And then we had fall 22 to spring 23. And this is when I took probability theory. I'm sure I've already done this on the channel somewhere before. Not to beat a dead horse. What else did I take? Potential theory. They're all analysis-based courses. And something like problems of uniqueness, I think was what it was called. It's a strange course, but I always called it uniqueness. I always called it convex geometry at the time because I didn't know what else to call it, but convex geometry wasn't the best way of describing it. So I took that the next year, and I spent most of this year really just focusing on probability theory because it was kind of a demanding course in terms of course load. These other courses here were very low stress. They didn't ask you to do much. You kind of just went in and listened. Oh, wait, I forgot. I took complex analysis too. Can't forget that. Mostly because that was the worst math class I've ever taken. The worst one. Probably the worst class I've ever taken ever was this class right here. I'm not going to go into detail why. And if you're friends with me in real life, because I know a lot of people in the math department know about me and my channel. I don't know how many of them watch me, but this one was the worst one. I did not like it at all. But the probability theory course I absolutely loved because the instructor was the greatest instructor of all time. Everyone told me he was the best, and then I went and took his class, and he was indeed the best. I asked him several times to be my advisor. I wanted to do probability or measure theory with him, but I couldn't get him to budge. But maybe if he was 10 years younger and I started the program earlier, things would have worked out, but they didn't. But it's okay. This course probably helped me understand this course better because this is like an abstract version of probability theory. It's just the way he explained the things was just like, I never took notes in his class, mostly because he gave us his notes. But he really did kind of explain things in a way where you didn't have to take notes. You could just sit and listen. Like if he says, okay, today we're going to do martingales, and then he would write on the chalkboard what martingales were. And then you'd leave the classroom just knowing what a martingale was. As far as graduate instructors go, I don't think really there's too many people that can compete with him. I'd like to speak with him at least one more time. I don't know if I'll get the opportunity, but I will tell you this story. I don't know if I've told this story before, but I'm pretty sure that was his last time teaching probability theory. And on the last day of school, I guess you could say the semester, spring 23, he kind of gave a very depressing. I say depressing again. He gave a speech which, depending on how you interpreted it, it was either uplifting or very sad, and I interpret it in a sad way. And I had to be careful not to weep in class because he. I don't want to go into details what he was talking about, but it was just really sad stuff, like the stuff that you say at the end of your life. And the next day was finals. The next time we met was the final exam day. I remember we had like 2 hours to take it. And I think I finished early. I studied really hard for the test because I wanted to do well. And I remember being the first one done. And when I was done, I turned the test over. And I wrote him a note on the back, told him what I thought about him. And then it was all nice things. I'm not going to write mean things about him. I don't have any mean things to say about the probability theory guy at all. So I wrote him a nice note and turned it in and left. And that was the last time I saw him. He's still around. It's just he's on sabbatical right now. So I emailed him recently, but by recently I mean like a few months ago, but he responded back, but it was a short email. But anyway, so that was that year. But this year, I pretty much spent all of my free time preparing for qualifiers round 2, because this is when I started. The beginning of spring 23 is when I started recording these videos. You can go back and watch it if you want. It's all documented. And in that summer, we took a class called Calculus of Variations and some sort of harmonic analysis. And convexity, I guess you could call it that. I don't like calling it harmonic analysis because it was more about geometry, but it used harmonic analysis to ask questions about convex shapes. And then at the end of it, we took qualifiers, and this whole thing is recorded on the channel. Actually, you know what? Let's make this a happy face, because as you know, I ended up passing that qualifier, and if you're interested in seeing what the test looked like, it's on the channel. That test, now that, it's been several months since I took it, I can offer an objective opinion about the test. I think I wouldn't call it an easy test, but I wouldn't call it terribly difficult either. I think it was a fair test. And when I think about what makes the analysis qualifier so much more difficult than all the other qualifiers is because for the other qualifiers you can strategize, whereas this test, it's there's a lot of luck involved, like making sure that you study the right things and you covered everything thoroughly, because they don't really tell you much about what you need to study. They'll just say study everything. Whereas the other tests, you can kind of figure out okay, they're definitely going to ask something about, showing whether or not a CeLO P subgroup exists that's non-trivial or whatever, if it's an algebra qualifier. There are definitely strategies for the other tests. So This time around, I think I got somewhat lucky, but I studied my freaking brains out for that test. Like, I probably did 8,000 hours. I read so many books and online resources. I easily did, if you count complex analysis and measure theory together, I probably did easily somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 problems. If you count probability theory, which I think is fair, because it is a specific type of measure theory, that it pumps that number even higher. But probability theory really did help me, because I didn't really know what the Radon-Nikodym theorem was after taking measure theory. It's kind of embarrassing to say. But I didn't really understand it completely. And then I took probability theory, and then the guy explained it to me. I was like, oh, that's all that it is? Like, I can't believe that I thought this was hard. It's just repetition, is what it is. Just doing tons of problems and making sure everything's nice. It's kind of a non-explanation, but whatever. But I passed, and I was really happy. And then we have the third year, the one I am in now, fall 23 to spring 24. So I'm taking Fourier analysis. I'm taking some sort of convex geometry, and then seminars, I guess. More or less the same stuff. I'll take both in the fall and the spring, because these classes are double semester. And then the seminars, kind of fill in the details. Can't remember if I took anything else. I don't think I did. I think it was just all seminars and teaching. But this year definitely was like lower stress. I haven't been practicing. I didn't do as much math as I did this year. I probably did the most amount of math in this year. I did a lot of math here, but this year was intense. And now it's like I'm trying to get into more research type stuff, which is kind of annoying that I'm in my third year and I'm kind of starting the research. But a lot of these programs, I guess, require time. Some people are here for short periods of time. Other people are here longer, I've noticed. I don't want to name names because I don't want to talk about people other than myself. But I guess reflecting on all this, if I had to give some advice to people that are thinking about getting PhDs in whatever subject, I can speak specifically about mathematics, but number one, make sure you want to do it. I know I've said this before, but it's really important, because you have to make sure that you are willing to spend most of your time. Like, think about it. You can divide the day up into 3 pieces, right? You have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and then 8 hours of everything else. And in order to succeed in a PhD program, if you want to do it, I don't want to say fast, but I would say making sure that you're making progress. You don't actually stagnate, because you do have to keep working all the time. That's, I guess, would be advice number 2, is make sure you never stop working, because it's really easy to just stagnate and then not make any progress, and then time runs out. It sneaks up onto you fast. But back to, advice number 1, which I've forgotten because my brain has the attention span of a snail. I think I was saying something about making sure that you really want to do it. Like, are you willing to spend 2/3 of your life just doing hard math problems? Because if you don't want to do that, then it's not for you. And even if you kind of want a math degree, a PhD, you also have to look at the long-term thing, because on this paper, there's 3 years on this paper. I'm at 2.5 years. Will you have enough steam that will last you this long, and then you have to keep going? And some people, what they value changes, what they really want out of life. When you're young, you have a lot of time. And I'm still young too, but I'm getting to that age where I really would like to have a job that pays really well, because I do have a master's degree. I could probably get a pretty good paying job. I do want the house, the wife, the kids. I don't have any of that stuff. It's just what you see is what you get here with my current situation. It's just this and math, math, and then going to school, math, and then you bring your math home, you do math, and you go to bed. In fact, when I was studying for this, I don't know what made me think of this. I was telling a student this in my office. We were just talking about nothing. I was telling her that we were talking about lucid dreams and how when I was studying for this test, I would do like 50 problems every day. Like when we were getting really close to this test, I would do 50 problems every day, and usually the problems were solved beforehand, but I would try and make sure that I understood how the problem was solved, because I need to be flexible to prove whatever problem they give me. And I would just exhaust myself, and I was like, okay, let me just take a 1 hour nap. And I'd lay on the bed, and then I would have lucid dreams where in my dreams I would just be reviewing the same problems I just did. So I really never got away from doing math. Even when I was resting, I was still doing math. So if you're serious about this, you do have to commit and go for the long haul. I do want to ask other people in my program if they do this differently. Like, are they really studying the way that I study, or am I just really inefficient? It's probably me being really inefficient, but I don't really know any other way of doing it. It's kind of what I've always done, and it's gotten me this far. So I stick to what works. But those are two things. Make sure you really want to do it. Whatever the second thing was, I said, keep working. And then the third is, I had to come up with a third thing. Make sure other people that are important in your life are okay with you doing it too, because it's a huge commitment. And maybe you could totally get a PhD. You have the willpower, you have the interest. Maybe you know this stuff. You can study this stuff in your own time because you actually do love it. But then there's the other things that surround it, because at the end of the day, you do need to make money. You do need to eat. You do need to forge relationships with other people. And it's not like every mathematician's a hermit. But I have noticed that a lot of men in the program are they don't have wives and girlfriends. Some of them do. But it is kind of somewhat lonely. But it doesn't have to be is the problem. You have to, force yourself to be social. Otherwise, do you really want to spend 20 hours every day thinking about math and doing nothing else? Most people don't. Like the serious mathematicians that, make huge progress in groundbreaking research, they really do commit most of their lives to doing this. And you kind of get to see that firsthand when you take their classes, go to measure theory seminar and all that stuff. Anyway, this video was just me rambling for about 25 minutes. So I guess if you have any more direct questions, you can actually comment on this video, and I'll do a better job of reading it and trying giving a thorough answer.